Thaddeus Crane guided his battered freighter through the swirling violet clouds of Valera Prime and set it down in the crowded starport. He had seen many strange worlds in his years as a salvage pilot, but this one felt different. Towering crystal spires caught the light of the twin suns and glowed like giant lanterns. Curved walkways threaded between glass domes, and small floating drones hummed overhead. Thaddeus checked his gear once more, then stepped onto the platform. He carried a simple mission: trade some old power cells for fresh engine coils. The local governor had offered a fair price, and Thaddeus needed credits. He should have known, however, that nothing on Valera Prime went by human rules. The starport led into a massive open plaza lined with stalls selling exotic fruits and metals that shifted color when touched. Thaddeus wove through the crowd, his boots echoing on smooth stone. He tried to ignore the curious glances. His human shape stood out among the tall, slender Syra merchants with their pearlescent skin and delicate features. Soon, a royal messenger in flowing silver robes approached with a sealed scroll. "Pilot Crane," she said with a gentle voice, "Queen Alanira requests your presence at the evening of vows." Before he could ask why, 2 guards flanked her and bowed. Thaddeus frowned but followed. He did not want to fight with palace soldiers. The palace rose atop a hill of white marble. Bioluminescent vines trailed its walls, pulsing in time with unseen music. Thaddeus passed under a carved archway, shaped like intertwined dragons, and stepped into a vast hall. Dozens of Syra lords and ladies stood in silent rows, watching him with bright eyes. At the far end, a circular platform held a low table strewn with crystal glasses and bowls of shimmering liquids. Standing behind it was a tall priestess in robes of deep indigo. She raised a slender hand. "Welcome, Thaddeus Crane. Please drink," she intoned, offering him a glass filled with a pale, glowing brew. Thaddeus hesitated, but the hall felt too still to refuse. He lifted the glass and took a sip. The drink was cool and tasted faintly of honey and starlight. He swallowed, wiping his mouth. Suddenly, the priestess's voice rang out. "By this sacred draught, you bind yourself in union to Queen Alanira." A ripple passed through the guests. Thaddeus blinked. "Union? I just drank poison," he stammered. The guard stepped forward, gently taking his arms. "Not poison," the priestess said. "A vow." Panic and disbelief warred in Thaddeus's mind. He tried to speak, but the murmurs of the Syra court grew loud. Drums began to beat in the walls. A doorway at the back opened, and a figure entered. A woman robed in silver and gold, her pale lavender eyes fixed on him. She moved with calm grace, and every head bowed as she passed. Thaddeus's heart pounded. He realized he had accepted something far more dangerous than poison. He had become bound to the alien queen, and there was no simple trade deal that could undo this mistake. Thaddeus's heart pounded as Queen Alanira glided forward on a shallow daze. Her robes of silver and gold trailed behind her like starlight. Her pale lavender eyes met his with calm authority. Every Syra court member knelt or bowed as she passed. Thaddeus felt the weight of 1,000 silent gazes on him. He tried to clear his throat. I'm sorry," he stammered, "but I don't understand. I only came to trade." His voice cracked in the vast hall. The queen paused just before the low table. Warm light from bioluminescent vines dimmed around her, casting her in gentle glow. Queen Alanira's lips curved in a slight smile. She raised one slender hand and spoke in a soft, musical voice, translated instantly in his helmet. "Thaddeus Crane, you have pledged yourself to me by sacred vow. Now you stand as my consort before all Syra." Her words echoed, and the court rose to its feet. Thaddeus swallowed. He felt the smooth marble floor beneath his boots. He looked down at his human clothes, oil-stained jacket, faded trousers, heavy boots, and wondered if they offended her people. He glanced at the priestess, who nodded solemnly. 2 silver-armored attendants moved forward and gently took his arms. "Sir, please follow Her Majesty," one said, voice soft but firm. Thaddeus shook his head. No, I can't do this. I'm not married to anyone. He tried to pull free, but the attendant's grips were unyielding. He felt a wave of panic. People whispered in the rows beyond him. He recognized fear and curiosity in their eyes. He was the first human many of them had ever seen up close. He swallowed hard, forcing himself to breathe slowly. The attendants guided him toward an ornate throne carved from moonstone. As he walked, he saw tapestries depicting Valera Prime's history, first settlers, great battles, and the Syra's bond with their queen. He realized this marriage was more than ceremony. It linked him into their culture and destiny. Queen Alanira ascended the dais and sat. She regarded him with unwavering calm. Thaddeus stepped before her. His knees felt weak. He fought the urge to fall to one knee, but pride kept him upright. "Do you accept this bond, Thaddeus Crane?" the queen asked, her voice echoing. Thaddeus opened his mouth to speak. His mind raced. He could refuse and face exile, or worse. He glanced at the expectant faces around him. In Syra's eyes, marriage was sacred and unbreakable. Any refusal now would insult not just Alanira, but every citizen here. His voice came out low. I accept," he whispered, though his heart shouted otherwise. He felt the words lodge in his throat. Cold dread spread through him, but he forced his shoulders back. A hush fell. Then the priestess stepped forward and sprinkled a fine crystal dust over them both. It sparkled like stardust. The court gasped in wonder and relief. Thaddeus looked at Alanira. She inclined her head, her expression gentle. Despite everything, he sensed no malice, only curiosity and something like hope. Later, alone in a private chamber, Thaddeus pressed his back against the cool wall and slumped to the floor. He realized escape might be impossible. Yet as he stared at the carved door ahead, he also felt a spark of determination. He would learn her ways and find a path forward, one way or another. Thaddeus awoke before dawn to begin his first lesson in Syra etiquette. A gentle tutor named Sierra led him into a courtyard filled with glowing flowers. "Here, humans bow by bending at the waist," she explained, demonstrating with perfect grace. Thaddeus tried to copy her, but he clumsily dropped to one knee. His cheeks burned. Later, he entered a training hall where Syra guards practiced silent sword dances. He held a light practice blade, its weight awkward in his hands. When he parried too hard, the blade clanged on the wall. The guards paused and whispered. Thaddeus's tutor laid a soft hand on his shoulder. "Control comes from calm mind," she said. He nodded and took a steadying breath. At midday, a formal tea ceremony was held. Thaddeus sat on a low cushion beside Queen Alanira. Two attendants poured a fragrant violet tea into thin crystal cups. Alanira bowed slightly. Thaddeus bowed too deeply and knocked his cup over. Tea spilled on the polished floor. He stammered an apology. "I am sorry, Your Majesty." She inclined her head and smiled gently, easing his embarrassment. That afternoon, Thaddeus explored the palace's halls. Painted murals showed Syra history, first settlers, ancient wars, and the queen's ancestors. He paused before a painting of Queen Alanira's great-great-mother, who united warring clans. He wondered if he could ever be worthy beside this queen who carried such legacy. In the great library, he met archivist Laura. Shelves stretched upward, filled with scrolls and crystals that stored data. Thaddeus asked in simple words, "Is there a way to end a marriage vow?" Laura's eyes softened. "This bond is sacred. Only the queen herself can release you." He realized that annulment meant asking Alanira, an impossible task so far. As evening neared, a formal dinner brought more challenges. The Syra ate by picking small flower petals and sipping nutrient broth. Thaddeus tried to bite a petal, but his teeth cut it wrong. The court gasped. Embarrassed, he smiled awkwardly. Alanira reached across and offered him a cup. "Try the broth first," she whispered. He sipped it and found it warm and soothing. Small triumph. After dinner, Alanira invited him to walk in the moonlit garden. Bioluminescent vines shimmered overhead. She spoke of her duty to protect Valera Prime and her loneliness as queen. Thaddeus listened, truly listened, feeling compassion. He offered his company as a friend. Alanira's eyes brightened. For the first time, he felt their bond stretch beyond ceremony. That night, Thaddeus lay in his chambers and replayed every mistake and small victory. He understood now that his survival here meant respect and learning. He closed his eyes, determined to master Syra ways. Tomorrow, he would try again, with calm mind and steady heart. Thaddeus awoke to the sound of urgent footsteps in the corridor. A silver-armored guard knocked and entered his chamber. "Sir," she said, her voice low, "we have reports of Dravok raider ships moving into our system." Thaddeus felt a chill. The Dravok raiders were known for brutal raids on peaceful worlds. He threw on his jacket and followed the guard through winding passages toward the royal war room. When he arrived, Queen Alanira stood before a holo display of blinking red dots. Syra admirals and advisors crowded around, their faces tense. Alanira turned to Thaddeus. "These ships could strike any day," she said. "Our fleet is strong, but the raiders outnumber us." She paused, searching the room. "We need fresh ideas." Thaddeus stepped forward. His voice was steady but firm. "On Earth, we use hit-and-run tactics against larger forces," he began. "Small, fast ships strike key points and then disappear. It slows the enemy and buys time." The council members exchanged worried looks. One advisor whispered, "Those tactics are too risky." Thaddeus met the advisor's gaze. "Risky, but it works when you cannot match numbers." Alanira studied him with quiet intensity. "Explain more," she said. Thaddeus pointed at the holomap. "We send pilot teams in stealth vessels to disable one raider ship at a time. Remove their wing ships, and the main force loses coordination. Then our fleet can move in safely." He sketched a simple plan. 3 small attack groups, each led by a Syra pilot and supported by human scouts. They would strike at twilight, when the raiders expect safety. An admiral cleared his throat. "We have few stealth ships," he said. "Building more will take weeks." Thaddeus nodded. "Use our hydroponic farm facility. It has spare power cells and metal frames. We can convert those into stealth hulls. I can oversee it." The room fell silent. He realized how much he was asking. Not just ideas, but action that could change lives. Queen Alanira rose and spoke with calm authority. "Very well. Thaddeus Crane, you will lead this effort. Gather our engineers and pilots. Prepare these vessels by the 7th day of the cycle." She looked at him, her pale eyes steady and kind. "You have my trust." A wave of relief and fear ran through Thaddeus. He bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not fail." After the meeting, he walked beside Alanira through the palace gardens. She laid a gentle hand on his arm. "I know this is hard," she said softly, "but I believe in you." Thaddeus nodded, surprised by how her faith eased his doubt. That night, Thaddeus stood on a balcony high above the city. The twin moons cast pale light over the spires. In the distance, he imagined the Dravok raiders assembling their force. He steadied his breathing. Tomorrow, he would rally engineers and pilots. He would build stealth ships, train crews, and face the raiders head-on. His accidental marriage had led him into a war he never sought, but now he would fight to protect a world that had become his home. Thaddeus awoke to the sound of urgent footsteps in the corridor. A silver-armored guard knocked and entered his chamber. "Sir," she said, her voice low, "we have reports of Dravok raider ships moving into our system." Thaddeus felt a chill. The Dravok raiders were known for brutal raids on peaceful worlds. He threw on his jacket and followed the guard through winding passages toward the royal war room. When he arrived, Queen Alanira stood before a holo display of blinking red dots. Syra admirals and advisors crowded around, their faces tense. Alanira turned to Thaddeus. These ships could strike any day, she said. Our fleet is strong, but the raiders outnumber us. She paused, searching the room. We need fresh ideas. Thaddeus stepped forward. His voice was steady but firm. On Earth, we use hit-and-run tactics against larger forces, he began. Small, fast ships strike key points and then disappear. It slows the enemy and buys time. The council members exchanged worried looks. One advisor whispered, "Those tactics are too risky." Thaddeus met the advisor's gaze. "Risky, but it works when you cannot match numbers." Elanira studied him with quiet intensity. "Explain more," she said. Thaddeus pointed at the holomap. "We send pilot teams in stealth vessels to disable one raider ship at a time. Remove their wing ships, and the main force loses coordination. Then our fleet can move in safely." He sketched a simple plan. 3 small attack groups, each led by a Syra pilot and supported by human scouts. They would strike at twilight, when the raiders expect safety. An admiral cleared his throat. "We have few stealth ships," he said. "Building more will take weeks." Thaddeus nodded. "Use our hydroponic farm facility. It has spare power cells and metal frames. We can convert those into stealth hulls. I can oversee it." The room fell silent. He realized how much he was asking. Not just ideas, but action that could change lives. Queen Elanira rose and spoke with calm authority. "Very well. Thaddeus Crane, you will lead this effort. Gather our engineers and pilots. Prepare these vessels by the 7th day of the cycle." She looked at him, her pale eyes steady and kind. "You have my trust." A wave of relief and fear ran through Thaddeus. He bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not fail." After the meeting, he walked beside Elanira through the palace gardens. She laid a gentle hand on his arm. "I know this is hard," she said softly, "but I believe in you." Thaddeus nodded, surprised by how her faith eased his doubt. That night, Thaddeus stood on a balcony high above the city. The twin moons cast pale light over the spires. In the distance, he imagined the Dravok raiders assembling their force. He steadied his breathing. Tomorrow, he would rally engineers and pilots. He would build stealth ships, train crews, and face the raiders head-on. His accidental marriage had led him into a war he never sought. But now he would fight to protect a world that had become his home. Thaddeus arrived early in the palace workshop, where engineers crowded around half-built hulls. The air smelled of hot metal and oil. He tapped a control panel on a stealth vessel frame. "Good morning," he said. "Today we finished the first test ship." Leora, the chief engineer, gave him a tired smile. "We've routed the power cells," she said, pointing at glowing conduits. "But the stealth coating still needs fine-tuning." Thaddeus nodded. "Let's work together. I'll help calibrate the sensors." They slipped into protective gloves and adjusted delicate circuits. Outside, Syra pilots in training uniforms waited in neat rows. Their faces were calm but eager. Thaddeus addressed them in simple words. "You will fly at twilight. You must strike fast, then vanish. Trust your instincts." He watched as they nodded, absorbing his every word. By midday, the first ship was complete. It hovered above the floor on magnetic levitation pads. Its hull shimmered like liquid glass under the workshop lights. Thaddeus guided the lead pilot, Mara, into the cockpit. "Remember, silence your engines before approach," he said. She closed the canopy, her lavender eyes steady. Outside on the test pad, Thaddeus stood with Queen Elanira and the council's military advisor. The queen wore a simple tunic instead of her usual robes. She placed a hand on Thaddeus' shoulder. "We believe in you," she whispered. His heart warmed. Mara's ship rose slowly, then flickered out of view as it engaged stealth mode. A moment later, it reappeared at the far end of the pad and landed smoothly. The crowd broke into polite applause. Thaddeus grinned. "It works." That afternoon, he led a training session in the courtyard. Pilots practiced rapid takeoffs and silent approaches using old merchant freighters fitted with new shields. Guards deployed holographic raider vessels as targets. Mara and 2 other pilots executed perfect mock raids, disabling the dummy ship's power cores. Each time they returned, Thaddeus offered gentle corrections. Faster throttle down. Aim lower. Nice work. As dusk fell, the real test began. 3 stealth vessels carried small strike teams toward an abandoned outpost near the planet's equator. Thaddeus and a Syra commando watched from a hidden control room. The outpost's lights blinked in the distance. The commando whispered, "If they fail." His voice trailed off. Thaddeus squeezed the commando's arm. "They will not fail." On the screen, the 3 ships glided forward. Suddenly, one ship's sensors lit up red. The commando frowned. "They're detected." Thaddeus held his breath. The vessel flickered. Then the sensor warning vanished. The ship resumed its path and docked briefly with the outpost's hull. Small figures disembarked, sealed a hatch, then re-embarked. All 3 ships returned to base without a trace. In the workshop, cheers erupted. Mara climbed out, hair loose around her shoulders, and saluted Thaddeus. He returned the salute, pride shining in his eyes. Late that night, Thaddeus found Queen Alanira in the gardens. She smelled of night-blooming flowers. "You did it," she said softly. He shrugged. "We did it together." She smiled and touched his hand. Under the twin moons, Thaddeus felt at home for the first time. He knew the real battle was still ahead, but now he believed they could win. "Oh, for Minnie." Thaddeus entered the Grand Council Hall with his shoulders straight, still feeling the glow of the night's success. Syra nobles lined both sides of the crescent chamber, their jeweled robes whispering as they moved. Their eyes flicked to him, full of doubt. Whispers drifted through the air like cold wind. "He sides with humans," one said. "He will betray us," another muttered. At the raised dais, Queen Alanira sat tall and calm. The floor's pale marble reflected her steady gaze. A silver-clad noble named Varn stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he began, voice edged with steel, "this human pilot leads our secret fleet, yet he owes no blood to Syra. How can we trust him?" His words echoed across the room. Thaddeus felt a knot tighten in his chest. He raised a hand. "I serve Valera Prime," he said clearly. "I made this vow by their laws and by my will. I have risked my life for this world, as I would for my own." His voice held no fear now, only resolve. Another advisor, Lady Ceres, stood. "He is still an outsider," she said. "If he fails, our people suffer. If he betrays us, we face ruin." The hall stilled. Thaddeus took a breath and met her gaze. "My life is no longer mine alone," he said. "I chose this bond. I will protect this planet or die trying." Queen Alanira rose, her robes rippling like moonlit water. "My counsel," she said, voice soft but unwavering. "Thaddeus has proven his loyalty. He saved our frontier and led the first strike. His human ways have strengthened our defenses. I trust him, and I ask you to do the same." She swept her hand toward him. "Let his deeds speak." A tense hush followed. One by one, voices rose in cautious support. "We accept his counsel. Let us judge by action." When the vote was called, the majority stood. Whispers turned to nods. Thaddeus felt relief and pride. He bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesty." After the council, hall attendants guided Thaddeus into a quiet side corridor. He pressed his back against the cool stone wall and let his breath out in a long sigh. A young guard named Miri approached. "Sir, many still watch you," she said softly. "They test your loyalty." Thaddeus nodded. "Then I will show them again and again that I stand with Syra." That night, Thaddeus found Queen Alanira in the palace's sky garden. Bioluminescent blooms glowed under the twin moons. She held 2 cups of warm spiced tea. He took one and sipped, savoring the gentle heat. "You were brave today," she said, studying him. He shrugged. I owe you and your people more than thanks. Elanira smiled. Your words saved you in council. My faith saved you in life. Her pale hand brushed his. For a moment, there was no palace politics or battlefield in the garden. Only two souls bound by choice. Thaddeus felt the final trace of doubt slip away. He was no longer an accidental consort. He was a partner in every way, ready to face whatever came next. Thaddeus stood at the edge of the war room's wide window and watched the silver fleet assemble in the pale dawn light. Stealth ships and Cyrus starfighters lined up against the horizon. He felt the hum of energy and the weight of every life that depended on him. Behind him, Queen Elanira entered quietly. She wore a simple command tunic instead of her royal robes, and her pale eyes were steady. I wanted to face this with you, she said softly. Thaddeus turned and nodded. Thank you for coming. He motioned to the holographic map floating before them. Red markers showed Dravok raider positions moving closer. Green lights marked Syra defenses. We launch at Cycle 8, he said. Our stealth teams will strike first, then the main fleet will move in to protect them. Elanira studied the map. And the civilians? She asked. They are safe on the underground levels, Thaddeus replied. Evacuation is complete. Only defenders remain here. She reached for his hand. I believe in you, she whispered. For a moment, he felt calm. Her faith was like a shield. At the launch platform, engineers made final checks on the hulls. Pilots crouched beside their ships, tightening straps and running through silent rituals. Thaddeus walked among them, offering quiet words. To Merit, he said, trust your training. Remember speed and silence. To another pilot, he added, stick close to your wing. Watch each other's backs. Each time, the pilots nodded, eyes filled with determination. Nearby, Elanira watched the ships lift off one by one. Her chest rose and fell in slow, controlled breaths. Thaddeus joined her. They look ready, he said. She gave a small, proud smile. You taught them well. He felt a surge of pride and sorrow for the risk they all faced. As the first stealth ship glided into the sky, Thaddeus and Elanira climbed into the command shuttle at the rear of the fleet. The cabin was quiet except for the soft hum of engines. Elanira sat beside him, hands folded. He reached over and squeezed her hand. She gave a gentle nod. The shuttle doors sealed. The fleet's engines powered up. Through the viewport, Thaddeus saw the planet's green valleys fade as they rose. He leaned forward. Commander, are we clear for departure? He asked into his comm. A calm voice replied, all clear. Good luck, sir. They launched into the sky. Engines glowed pale blue, then faded as they switched to stealth mode. The world below turned dark. Only the lights of the palace gardens flickered like distant stars. Thaddeus and Elanira shared a look of resolve. He tightened his grip on the console. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the ancient oath that bound them. Together, she whispered. Together, he echoed. In the hush before battle, Thaddeus felt a fierce certainty. No matter what happened, he would stand by his queen and protect Valera Prime. The shuttle slipped away into the silent skies, carrying them toward a fight that would test every bond they had forged. And as the stars stretched out before them, both human and queen prepared to write the next chapter of their shared destiny. Thaddeus watched the holoscreen as the first stealth ship slipped past the Dravok blockade. He felt his pulse quicken when the vessel exploded a flare of plasma at the enemy's communication array. The array died in a flash of sparks, and the command ship's sensors went dark. A cheer rose in the command shuttle. But the Dravok fought back. Their winged ships swarmed around the stealth team's location. Thaddeus tapped his console, routing energy to the palace's orbital defenses. Beams of pale light lanced through space, cutting swarms of raiders in half. One raider ship spiraled out of control, its engines ablaze. Beside him, Queen Elanira leaned forward. Her lavender eyes shone with pride. They hold, she said. Thaddeus nodded. "Hold for our main fleet," he replied. He keyed the comm. "All Syra fighters, advance on my mark." He steadied his voice, though his heart beat like a drum. Below, the palace orbit glinted in metal and glass. Thaddeus and Alanira felt its warmth through the shuttle's shields. The Dravok flagship loomed ahead, dark and huge. Its cannons opened fire, sending streaks of red toward the stealth ships. 2 vessels vanished in a flash of light. Thaddeus swallowed. "Divert power to shields," he ordered. Alanira pressed a sequence on her console. The shuttle's hull vibrated as layers of energy formed around them. "Steady," she whispered. Thaddeus gripped her hand. The shuttle shuddered, but held firm. He looked back at the holoscreen. The restart of their stealth teams. They had slipped behind the Dravok lines. "With me," Thaddeus said. He rose and moved to the front of the cabin. Alanira followed. Together, they watched a small dot break away from the flagship's side. A pulse bomb detonated, blossoming like a dark flower. The flagship's engines stuttered. The great ship veered off course, losing formation with its fleet. Below them, Syra starfighters dove in. Their wings shimmered with speed. Dravok ships attempted to regroup, but now they lacked leadership. One by one, they fell. Plasma lances cut through hulls. Fighters tore apart raider escorts. The battle turned. The remaining Dravok vessels flowed into the void, torn and smoking. A cheer filled the shuttle. Thaddeus exhaled. Alanira's hand found his. "You did it," she said, her voice tender. He shook his head. "We did it," he corrected, thinking of every pilot and engineer who risked their lives. He felt a wave of relief, warm and real. Later, when the fleet returned to the palace orbit, crowds gathered on the lower decks. They cheered as each ship docked. Thaddeus and Alanira stood side by side on a viewing platform. The twin suns shone through the chamber windows, bathing them in gold. He bowed to the queen, and she returned his gesture. That night, in the moonlit garden, Thaddeus and Alanira walked among glowing vines. They paused by a fountain. He took her hand. "This world is safe," he said softly. She nodded, her eyes bright. "Thanks to you," she whispered. Thaddeus smiled. He knew his life had changed forever, and he would never leave Valera Prime. Thaddeus stood in the palace courtyard as the twin suns climbed over Valera Prime. Citizens lined the marble steps, their faces bright with hope. Today was the renewal of vows, a festival born from his accidental marriage that had changed the fate of 2 worlds. Queen Alanira appeared on the dais beside him, her silver-leaf crown catching the sunlight. She wore a simple white tunic embroidered with human and Syra symbols entwined. Thaddeus, in his well-tailored tunic, felt both pride and awe as he faced the gathered crowd. A hush fell when the heralds announced Her Majesty, Queen Alanira, and her consort, Thaddeus Crane. Alanira raised her hand in greeting, and Thaddeus bowed deeply. Then, at their signal, the court priest presented 2 crystal goblets, one filled with pale starlight wine from Valera, the other with clear water from Earth's oceans. Each took a sip of both, exchanging the goblets in a gesture of unity. Queen Alanira's voice rang clear. "I renew my vow to stand with human courage and Syra wisdom, for the prosperity of both our peoples." She lifted her goblet high. Thaddeus met her gaze and spoke firmly. "I renew my vow to protect this planet, and my queen, in all seasons to come." The crowd erupted in cheers, drums began to beat, and flying lanterns drifted into the sky. After the ceremony, Alanira led Thaddeus to the newly built Hall of 2 Worlds. Its tall columns bore reliefs of human explorers and Syra ancestors side by side. Inside, human diplomats and Syra nobles shook hands before long tables laden with treaties, art, and gifts. Thaddeus, washed as a human child, offered a Syra toddler a bright orange fruit. Both laughed when the toddler's skin changed color at the taste. Alanira squeezed his hand. "You have given us hope," she said softly. Thaddeus smiled. You gave me purpose." In the afternoon sun, they unveiled a bronze statue on the palace lawn. It showed Elanira standing tall in her royal robes, with Thaddeus at her side holding a starship model. Flowers lay at its base, and citizens placed tokens of thanks. Hand-painted tiles, iron gears, and earth-made trinkets. A festival of lights followed. Bioluminescent vines lit the pathways as dancers in human and Syra costume performed together. Music blended drums and strings. Thaddeus joined in, stepping carefully but laughing when he nearly missed a beat. Elanira laughed with him, eyes full of warmth. That evening, they addressed the new Council of Two Worlds. Thaddeus spoke in simple words. "Let us share technology, art, and kindness. Let our children learn each other's languages. Let peace be our legacy." The council members nodded, clapping in agreement. Late at night, Thaddeus and Elanira climbed to the highest turret. The twin moons hung low, reflecting silver light on the glass spires. He wrapped an arm around her. "I never planned this life," he whispered. She leaned into him. "Nor I," she replied. "But I choose it every day." They watched the lanterns drift into the sky, symbols of promise. Thaddeus knew his journey had begun with a single mistake, but it led to the greatest adventure of all, building a future where two worlds stood as one.